camera's on, your mic is on.
Hello, everyone. Calling to order the Infrastructure Committee meeting for August 10th, 2026 at 5:30. We always like to just jump right in with the Rob Perry report.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, let me say who had Juan is here, Henry's here, Jason's here. Don't see Ronnie. Okay, take it.
Septage for June was 54,875. The significance is at this point, we're actually on par to make our revenue for the 2026 sewer line item. The last month I talked about our new speedies permit, which actually took effect this August 1st, which is a week or so ago, week and a half ago. So we've received the new composite sampler for the contact tank. It hasn't been installed yet, but that's not a big deal. It just has to have power, the data run to it, and then we fill it up with bottles. What will happen next is every time there's a rain event where we have an overflow through the contact tank, it'll actually take a sip or a swallow of that discharge and it keeps it in a refrigerated container, because some of the compounds, like fecal coliform, has to be refrigerated. If it's anywhere near warmth, the colonies will actually grow and explode, and it won't be realistic of what's in there. And we do have limits in place, but they're kind of soft limits while we take the next 5 years to figure out what it's going to take to make us actually meet those limits on a consistent basis. You know, we're going from no measurements, no quantities, no sampling to some pretty strict regulations. So, you know, DEC is working with us, and we do have a 5-year schedule to come to conclusion, so that way we meet it. As everybody recalls, we had a 9-inch, 8 or 9-inch rainstorm on July 29th, and you know, we've got pictures. You know, this is Mill Street's number 1. There's a little swirling there. That's a catch basin. That catch basin is probably 6 to 8 inches under water, but so are the manholes that are in the streets. You know, manholes aren't watertight, so when there's a foot of water on top of them, that means that they're full over the brim, which means that the actual water level in the system is up to that level now. So, you know, a lot of people got water and or stormwater in their basements, and you know, when you've got manholes are surcharging, like in picture 2, you know, that's at State Street. I mean, that's how far back up it was.
I can tell you, my house, it wasn't leaving. I have the floor drains that go to the sewer,
Yeah,
and it just stopped leaving the house for an hour or so.
yeah,
And we got about 2 inches.
yeah, because there's nowhere for it to go. That's just the way it goes. It's, you know, it's,
And it started leaving.
you know, I mean, it's a flood.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. So you can get, streets are flooded. You know, 8th Street was had almost 2 feet of water on the one side of it. On the one side of it, it's not funny. But, you know, where I saw a picture of it.
Is picture 100 Dock Street or Mill Street?
That's Dock and Mill, that's the intersection.
Oh, that's in.
So, we also have, so what happens when you have these flows? You see in picture 3, there's rounded off bricks and there's stones. This actually is coming from the collection system. So there's stone sewers, there's brick sewers that are either on Columbia Street or Union Street or State Street that were ripped out, and what's part of the stone sewer is now, you know, made its way to the plant. It took the bar screen, put that offline. You see picture 4 is a lot of smaller stones, but these all came from the collection system. So we know that in the next couple of months, we're gonna start seeing a lot of sinkholes throughout the city, because now that the sewer's been compromised, the flows that go through it are gonna grab more material. Trucks and cars drive over top of them, shakes it, that material falls into it, the sewer carries that away too. And then eventually it pops out in the road, and then we go to work. So, this is actually the new bar screen. And, you know, you can see there's probably 5 feet of just shit, bricks and stones and rocks. And there, we actually had to bring earth care in to vac all of that out. And, you know, 6 is when it's all clean, it was put back into service. But it was a couple of days to get everything back in shape of that plant. As for water, we are the recipient of a $50,000 cybersecurity assessment grant. That water plant was built in 2005. They started design in 2003. Obviously, without being techno gurus, we know that 2003 technology is basically the equivalent of 2 cans in a string for what's going on in today's arena. So what's going to happen is the grant, the process will hire one of those companies that's paid to hack into your system and expose any vulnerabilities. And then once they identify those things, we'll come up with another, a plan to resolve them. And that will be used to apply for an actual hardware grant from Department of Health or EFC to upgrade a lot of the, I would say the internal machinations with the PLCs and the computers to SCADA logistics of the operational control systems of the plant. So that, just some maintenance stuff, a little clock is good, but not when it's in the mixing chamber. So, they said to do some maintenance on it. Picture 9 is what it's supposed to look like. It's a nice even dispersal, and then that goes into the filters, and it helps stick to all the organics and remove them from the water before it's the sand filters. Another maintenance issue, just, a lot of people realize, the chemicals that we use, as they stay in tanks, they tend to denature. Sometimes they'll precipitate. So it's not, obviously this is a maintenance issue, but this is an active compounds that if it stayed in solution, would have been used for treatment. So sometimes we know things are going on because we'll need to up a chemical flow. Anyway, this is what it is. Also, water breaks, which is not typical for this time of year. We've had 3 of them in the last month. There was one in the 400 block of Columbia. There was one in the 200 block of Columbia, and this is from 4th and State. You can see what it looks like. Picture 12 when it starts. 13 was we began excavation. We leave a lot of the water still flowing, so that way you can actually see it coming into, and it helps you locate the source, where the main is and where the break is. And then once we find out where that is, we bring extra pumps in to get it down. We couldn't get valves to hold completely, which is an issue with a lot of our intersection. A lot of our valves are just very old. But anyway, picture 15 shows the sleeves unrepaired. Right. So back to that rainstorm. When we had Hurricane Irene, there was 7 inches of rain. This water level, which was at 6 inches above the spill lake, was still in the green area. When we had Irene, we were 20 inches over. So it was near the top of the yellow area, to the point where we actually take emergency action. We had to shut the plant off. We had to divert the supply lines going into the reservoir, and we had to open blow-off valves below the reservoir to drop the level. We didn't have anywhere near that with this storm. So, and I think as we all know now that if it was really a valley, the closer you were to the river, the more annihilated you got, and Churchtown is 8 miles away. So it looks like they didn't get, anywhere near the rain that we got here in the city, but everything was fine with that. We did a transfer resolution last month. So we've engaged with Colliers to do the update a bunch of our plans that were in need of update. So I do have an inspection with the DEC later this month. It's a biannual inspection of the dam. DPW 18 is just a clay tile sewer. It's got a broken hub. If you look closely in the middle, you can see the green from the dye. And that's where they probably use to identify the source, because sometimes, the void could be a lateral, sometimes it could be on our main, but obviously this is ours. And, so after the repair was made, just a 19 is just showing, I don't know if you can see, but in the middle of the picture, there's on the front of the skid steer, there's actually a mixing bucket. It's basically a concrete mixer that's like twice the capacity of like your average one. It runs off the hydraulics of the skid steer. They throw the bags of cement right into it. They have a tote with the water, and then it has a little chute, and then they just drop it right in. That's how they, because this wasn't a huge break, so without having to buy 4 yards of concrete, this is a way to, efficiently, do like a yard and a half or so. Other DPW stuff, the ADA, some of the, sidewalks were degrading. This is at Fourth and State near the parking lot where, the city's the property owner. Elsewhere, I mean, really, it's with that sidewalk law, we kind of lost our authority to make property owners fix shit in front of their house. So anyway, but in front of the city property, we take care of it.
And would you say that's overall, like, there's a lot of city property and a lot of sidewalks adjacent to city properties.
Well, yeah, the city itself has.
Keep up on
Well, I mean,
budget.
it is what it is. We get to what we can do, and, the city properties they're not always on corners, right? So they're not gonna have ADA ramps necessarily.
But they have chicken.
Yeah. We brought in that company that with the horizontal saw 10 years ago, and they addressed a lot of the really bad ones. I just need an awful one out here in front of this building. When they did the ADA project, that tree was removed, and, 9 out of 10 times you got a traffic hazard, there's a tree right next to it somewhere. So, but, I'm not aware of a whole lot of egregious ones on city property.
I didn't know if it fell into like, everyone's waiting for that.
Well, we just do it because, as a property owner, we something that's deficient, we need to address it. An upgrade in the crosswalk, that's the one. This is another example where, Amtrak actually put that crosswalk in. And then they said, oh, by the way, we're gonna put it in once and we need the city to repair it. And, that's what happens a lot of times, you get outside companies that want, they'll do the initial contract for the initial contract, but they don't want to do any of the follow-up or maintenance or upkeep. I was up in Bar Harbor a couple weeks ago, and I just like to find these little anecdotal things. One is, picture 22 is a clock similar to the rotary clock that is just like ours, and it tells time twice a day. Apparently every once in a while, a question comes up as to why. Well, the rotary clock it's proprietary. I mean, it's like $10,000 worth of upgrades.
You showed a bit of what, a couple years ago.
Yeah, so it is, anytime anybody wants to budget money for it, we can hire the guy to do it. Also, just kind of a thing, there were complaints about the signs for parking in Hudson about they were too high, people couldn't see them, and, here they've got them on top of the 12-foot pole just below them. And people were still paying for parking, so imagine that. And at the cemetery, just more of the rain stuff. We used to take the hit for this overflow from the cemetery pond goes under 23 and then goes over to Greenport, which is called the Frisk Track. And there's a gully that runs through there, and that would flood. And they would for years say it was Hudson's problem with the cemetery. But we identified that, the water really is coming off of Newman Road, and you can see this is gully's flooded and the water's going across the street. And it short circuits through the cemetery. Then it runs along the cemetery road like a sluice away or, a conduit. And that's where the water comes from. So
Into the Goose Pond.
into the Goose Pond and through the Goose Pond and into the pipe around the road. But the road didn't flood, I don't think. And the only other thing I have, which is a matter of housekeeping, is I have a conflict next month. I will not be here on Monday, the 14th. So just giving you a heads up if you want to look for another day or date. That's fine. If you want to go on without me, that is fine too.
I don't know what we talked about.
So,
Okay, let's see where, but you've already figured out what day it falls in.
that's all right.
Okay. An update that, Mohammed Ronnie is online, just in attendance. Might as well start there. Do you have any questions? Ronnie?
No, not at the moment.
Henry?
I do not have any questions.
I have a few notes.
Okay.
You, I noticed that a lot of the painting, the striping happened, recently. I saw some, I could tell because the leaves were painted or whatever, were on. And so,
Where?
Railroad Ave?
Okay. I don't know.
You didn't
That was done back in the spring or something like that.
when the leaves don't move very much, the railroad.
Now, I guess now they're painted, I don't know. No, we had to do that because, and I think I discussed it in the committee, because Galvin put a parking lot on Railroad Avenue. And so what everybody thought was a one-way street, which was actually a two-way street that goes to GSS.
Yeah.
People just, because nobody ever really came the other way. But the people from the parking lot were coming out onto 7th Street. And so people generally assumed it was one way, but it wasn't. So we had to put that yellow stripe.
That's the two-way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because there's houses there.
Yeah.
There's you legally can't divert people onto private property, so even though the DSS is a county entity,
Right.
it's still private property. So the road, if you have public access in, you have to give public access out. So, and there's one or two houses back there.
Yeah. Oh,
I think everybody else just used to go through DSS and just do the loop.
yeah, I always do the loop, but so one is.
But now these guys are pulling out, so that's why and I think we put the stripe down and, the county installed a sign or something like that.
Yeah. So continuing with the themes of striping, if we are able to go forward with it, is there other places that need design? Like I was thinking of Fairview Avenue. If you were to say to fill in that quarter of a mile from Stewart's to the city line, does it need like an engineer to determine where the lines actually lie?
You just gotta, I mean, a minimum, is 11 feet for a travel lane. And then after that, but you're gonna,
Because there is parking along Fairview there and
there's parking, I think, only on one side of Fairview. So you'd have to make the line off center.
I guess that's what I'm asking. Is that something that you and whoever is doing it can determine, or do you need design?
I don't think we need design,
Okay.
but
Good answer.
I don't,
I just want.
I don't think we need
Budget.
lines either. There's no accidents there. I saw all the accidents. There's not a single one on Fairview Avenue.
You're right,
Okay.
but we have to make a choice of how to determine. And as far as right now, I made the determination.
I mean, I know what
6,000
you study with this MUTCD, but, when they're saying urban arterials, they're literally talking about Wolf Road, Central Avenue. It's not, it's not necessarily Fairview Avenue, Hudson, because it doesn't connect to any kind of, these urban arterials connect to interstates and connect to other thoroughfares. And these are just roads, these are just city streets.
Yeah,
Out upwards.
I'm looking to try to budget for it and see if we can do it. So,
Do what line?
Lines, everybody.
All line?
So you've talked a lot about sewer relative to developments, and you've created a whole system to collect money for new sewer permits and expanding the sewer system. Is there any concern in your mind that the water system and with what you see on the developments going around, new neighborhood, possible HHA redevelopment, possible affordable housing, is there any concern in your mind relative to?
Well, yes and no. So, and I think I've said we're gonna be applying for a CDBG grant for water supply. Because our water supply infrastructure is 125 years old. These are old cast pipes that were put in by farmers, bringing it back in their hay wagons. And they use lead and copper. We know that we have permission to divert 2.5 million gallons from the Taconic Creek and New Forge Road every day to the reservoir. But we know that if we draw 1.5 million gallons a day of raw water consistently, that there's no water going over the spillway. And without any fancy, mechanical devices or flow meters, there should be another million gallons going over the spillway. So we know that at somewhere in that 8 miles, something's going on. And you have, these mains, they go under creeks, under moving bodies of water. So if there's a break there, you'll never see it and we had one 20 years ago in the Clover Creek on Stone Mill Road on this side, and there was no water going to the plant. It took them 2 days to find where the break was. So we know that we have a plant that's designed for 3 million gallons a day. But if we were to draw the requisite flows for that, we would, in theory, we wouldn't get the flow that we needed from the forge to the reservoir. So we would eventually start dropping the reservoir down and, it would be a zero at some point, there'd be no water.
Yeah.
Without a supplemental supply. Now, we have a supplemental supply, which is considered emergency backup supply, which is the quarry. But that requires the operation of a pump station, and also that quarry water is not the same chemistry as the forge. There's more enough water there, but it's chemistries and it's hard, it's running through limestone and so, so there is that, but the other part is the limitation is right now at about 1.5 million gallons is about the maximum we can physically get to the water plant. Because, so when we've had, last summer, we had a dry summer, and everybody who moved here from Brooklyn's got a garden. And they keep their gardens, lush. And we know that, we couldn't keep the tank full. And the tank was maxed out at 1.5 million gallons. Now, how could a 3 million a gallon day plant be maxed out at 1.5 million gallons? The answer is because right now the water comes to us by gravity, and the differential head will only provide a maximum flow. So we have a pump station that is in Clover. It's actually in Greenport, but we call it Clover Pump Station. That has these 200 horsepower pumps. There's 2 of them, and they could physically pump water, suck water from the reservoir. But as I said, we've got a limiting factor. We know there's a supply issue getting to the reservoir. And secondly, these 200 horsepower pumps are rated for 3 million gallons a day each. If the plant only needs 1.5 million, that's 1.5 million, which is going to turn into pressure. That pump is going to be pushing, and there's a valve at the water plant that's going to be closing to limit the supply. And you're going to have this valve and this pump pushing on a 150-year-old sectional pipe from the Clover Creek to up Rossman Avenue, and eventually it is going to blow it apart. So we really can't use, we have the pumps, we really can't use them because we don't have a way to regulate their control. So part of the study that I've described before is to install a VFD, a variable frequency drive, basically a motor
Controllable pump.
that would allow the 200 horsepower motor to run at 15% or 20% to increase the flow, but not cause any damage to the main or the plant itself. So, that's one of the aspects that will be researched in the grant. You know, and
Not
stuff.
awarded yet.
It hasn't even, yeah, we haven't even finished the application, we have to do a public hearing. But we've been getting other paperwork and having meetings with OCR, because OCR likes to have pre-meetings before you even make your bid, and it's open bid, there's no deadline for it. It's one of those open.
They want it.
Enrollment, oh, it's an open enrollment thing, you know, so whenever we get it to them, but they like to have these meetings before, because they want to get a pristine product, if you will. Them, you know, they know that they can advance through. So,
So if that was to happen,
So-
you feel pretty good about handling.
yeah, but given our current conditions, I mean, you know, the tank's full, you know, even when it's like drought conditions, it's still, you know, it's pretty close to full. It's not, wouldn't say, but, you know, we have a 2-day supply. You know, you know, I don't, I'm not really
I started doing
concerned.
some math on who's, could be 600 people and added to.
Yeah, we have,
It could be 300 or 400 added to, the South Bay. That's a lot more people. I just think.
yeah, I mean, but you know, the reality is you're talking, these projects are 20,000, 30,000 gallons a day. I mean,
Okay, that's, I
You
had no idea.
yeah, you know, the plant's putting out 1 million to 1.5 million gallons a day, so, you know, it would have to be this was a discussion that, you know, everybody's, the fish farm came to Hudson for water about 5 different times because of their spat with Greenport. And, you know, so we did a hard look at, because, you know, they were looking for 500,000 gallons a day for it. They wouldn't pay for it, yeah, but I mean, so, you know, 20,000 gallons a day, 30,000 gallons a day for these development projects. Not overwhelming, really, not concerned. 500,000 gallons a day, you know, that would
To be thought of.
that would be something that would need some serious infrastructure protections, just to make sure that we could get the flow to cover our needs, you know, as well as their needs. But in the end, they're not in our water district, and anything that was gonna go forward required the sign off from Greenport, and Greenport, Greenport didn't approve it, so.
Okay. So I went to see, or reached out to Nick Fox. I thought that things like, sidewalk use by contractors would go through the code enforcement, but it sounds like it goes through your department.
Well, I mean, yes, when you say goes through, there's a sidewalk permit, and let's just say what it is. It's basically a release. That's all it ever was. The contractor and or the property owner fill it out. They say it's a 2-week permit, and they say, I agree to hold the city harmless. I know I'm not supposed to obstruct it, or I'm supposed to make a safe thing, but it's basically, I'm gonna be doing work on the sidewalk, and if somebody trips and falls on the sidewalk, you know, as property owner, I'm responsible for the sidewalk, and I hold the city harmless. So that's, you know, it's not like your other permits.
Okay, so can I explain, and I'm not hugely concerned about these two, but they're good examples of Fourth and Warren Hotel and the Crescent Garage.
Well, the Fourth and Warren Hotel they have a building permit, right, for construction. And so, you know, typically when Craig Haig was CEO, now Craig Haig was basically that any sidewalk work was included in their building permit. It was, the building permit, the sidewalk permit that I do is for Sally J. homeowner, you know, who's doing work and repairing the sidewalks. If it's part of a capital project, a commercial project, it's, you know, whatever, they have a detail or a temporary plan, or they wanna, you know, that's gonna be something that might even have been approved through site plan review through the planning board. You know, because
That like.
the planning board does have purview out to the
There's
third.
no impetus to stop. Like, they just keep, they block off the sidewalk. They poured the sidewalk. They have some facade work to do, but there's no urgency for them to finish and take take the fence away from the sidewalk, and so I think there's this gap between you and Nick, like, he understood that you had permitted that, or the department, your department. had
Right, 'cause-
permitted that. And so he doesn't.
Well, and I don't know why, honestly, I'm not sure why it was referred to me to review, because it was clearly part of a construction project
Feels like it should be.
that was, and it had gone through site plan review. And the planning, board commission, has up to, I have to the curb, in between the curbs. And the planning board has from the curbs in,
Okay,
so why that came to me as something that they wanted me to sign off on, but that's, somebody made the decision that they wanted me to review and sign off on, so,
so those projects and what I'm describing is really just part of their building permit.
yes, it'll be an extension of the building permit.
So who's enforcing that then?
Well, you're a good one to ask, since you build in the city.
Yeah, Henry.
You understood. Well, so I went to Parking Bureau, and they have,
That's where we fill it out. They hold the permit.
well, they hold a permit if you want
For
to
the
put out
space.
a dumpster,
Yeah.
or if you're a tradesman,
Your sidewalk permit,
no.
Where, if I'm blocking the sidewalk,
that's,
I fill that out at DPW?
$25.
Yes, $25, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I should be calling DPW to follow up on those then. Because for example, to your Fourth and Orange, on the, like at 240 Union Street, the Spark of Hudson has had that sidewalk closed for 2 years. 2 full years.
Well, which one are you talking about?
So I'm assuming they're filling it out
They'll
every
look-
2 weeks.
You
Well,
see,
then, let's just have it, for example, they're in violation. How am I going to,
There's no violation for it. It's not,
so,
there's nothing in the code that says anything about getting a permit from. There's like
That's what I'm getting
the
at.
appendices are in there. They say what the mixes are and whatever else, but there's a gray area. You will.
so we should definitely be adding some language to that permit in the code that says something of termination.
Yeah, that's basically, I'm wanting a
There's been a
duration.
parked on the sidewalk on Union for,
And I think you could I think that
2 years.
people could renew,
yeah.
But-
yeah.
but they would have to do it, and then it would give the city some chance to
So-
look at it.
If there's gotta be some, no, I'm not looking. There's gotta be some, recourse for when the permit expires.
Well, I think,
A building permit.
The sidewalk permit, why not? Why wouldn't there?
But you just said 2 weeks for,
I mean, that's what it just says. That's one of those old Johnny's ideals, with the carbon copy and the circle.
I think,
You know,
yeah, the
But
reason the code enforcement makes the most sense, is they're the ones out there seeing it. Like, you're not gonna know if someone has a permit, or like, the enforcement, or the checking on it, or the,
That should definitely be with code.
yeah, because there was a similar discussion that took place in the building below, where Ackerman's is now. And, everybody's number one was bragging about how come they had a sidewalk permit and then they didn't renew it or whatever, and the site was closed. At that point, Craig Hague said they have they have a building permit for a year, and the sidewalk is part of that building permit. Ergo, they had it fenced off and they worked it, so. But like I said,
so it's,
Well,
I'm gonna have information out of you, I've got information from the parking bureau. This,
well, the parking bureau is on-street parking. That's just for a parking spot. That's not putting a dumpster equipment on the sidewalk.
no,
That's putting-
you're absolutely,
That's just on,
Yeah.
on the city street.
that's right. And then they have, a permit for a tradesman for the year to pay $150 to park in any metered
And
spot.
that's supposed to be also, because there used to be like one or two guys that would put their shit on the sidewalk. They weren't supposed to do that. They were supposed to occupy a parking space or something like that.
Because,
Yeah.
because the other part of it is, as the, again, Fourth and Warren, is we're losing parking revenue in those spots. There's probably at least six, there's probably at least three on each block, on each side.
Yeah, I would say there's more, yeah, at least
least
six,
six, maybe
probably
eight.
like eight.
Well,
Um,
that's, you know, that's a decades old discussion.
yeah,
I mean, you got these guys paying $150 permit and you got a brick and mortar place, paying, $1,500 a month in property taxes. $2,000 a month in property taxes.
so I've got more work to do, but that's something I'm interested in, trying to get better and not pursuing it through DPW, but pursuing it more through code enforcement. You wouldn't mind giving up that.
No, I don't. Like I said, it was one of those weird. Cause we had a guy, we had a contractor on Union Street and did a crappy job. And, the property owner wanted us to go after the contractor for doing it, and we're like, hold on a second. No, you hired the contractor, we gave the contractor the specs of what we required, but, we're not indemnifying and we're not an enforcement body going after somebody to do the shoddy work.
Just failed the inspection.
So along the similar line of thought, what department is responsible for sidewalk repairs if the homeowner decides to repair their sidewalk or change it decoratively or something like that?
Well, if they want to change it,
Yeah.
if they want to do a new sidewalk, right now they come and get it from us. They want to do it in something other than concrete, which is the code. And Jeff Baker added those lines, a line that says, or other material approved by the department or the commission or something like that. So Tyler has the right, if somebody wants to put pavers down or bluestone, Tyler has the right to grant that exception. It's in the code.
And who is Tyler?
Tyler's the commissioner of public, or
Gotcha.
commissioner of public works.
Oh, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So to do that, they're coming upstairs or they're going to,
Well, they would have, anytime somebody wants to do something like that, we make them, put together, it's not a submittal, but
Yeah.
something similar in writing that would say, this is the design layout, this would be the material. It hasn't happened yet, by the way, just so you know.
oh, well, because I know two spot places on Washington Street that did it last week.
There was a person,
100%.
It's one of the streets that has the most of them.
They two,
they just slate or pavers,
mix.
yeah. Well, there was a person who
Well,
put,
there are three.
On-
One did slate about 3 months ago and the
Yeah.
the other two happened last month.
right,
Right on Washington, first block of Washington.
yeah. And there was one on,
So if you don't have a code section, if you don't have a code officer for DPW, then this should not
Right.
be under DPW.
I mean,
Who's going out to check?
but we don't have enforcement authority.
Yeah, you have no enforcement.
Right,
Yeah.
we can deny, like when it comes to like the water and sewer, we can deny a connection. Or we can terminate a connection if it's considered to be a public self, HSW, things like that, but.
So right now, we have people not in compliance because they put in their own papers without approval, because they didn't clear, if you didn't say anybody's submitted a request, these were finished a few days ago.
That's been
Where do you want to go from there? Like, there's gotta be something that, well, there's no recourse of sort of someone to make it less safe for the public. So, do you want to?
There is code about trip hazard, but quarter
There
inch.
is, but it's no,
If you're using that
No,
material,
we
it's
can't.
a quarter inch problem.
yeah. So these are definitely not in compliance. But there's no code enforcement.
Well, are they poorly installed? Are they like
Yeah.
all jaggedy?
And there will, one of them is pitched to the
Yeah.
side of the sidewalk. And the other one, there are too many, the gaps are very large between the pavers. So it's gonna eventually become a different level. So it just doesn't, there.
I would argue that he could go give a violation, because it's in the code.
Right, so that would be named.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like when they talk about the tree policy, right? And they said DPW, I'm like, how are we gonna be the tree police? You know, we're gonna come in and take leaf blowers and blow people's faces, like, get away from that tree, right? You know, you can't touch that tree. I mean, we don't have badges, we don't have enforcement authority, we're not, you know.
Would you ever read if someone did a driveway cut and never put in a sidewalk? They just have their gravel driveway, and their gravel driveway just goes all the way to the street, so there's an actual interruption.
It could be, I
I didn't
mean,
know if that, is that still something that the Public Works Board needs to handle, or?
no, no, because the sidewalks and the curb cut, they have to, like a curb cut, if somebody needs a curb cut, they have to get that approval from the Department of Public Works.
This is probably done a long time ago, but there's
Yeah.
gravel driveway with, and the side, and it cuts right across the sidewalk.
Because the sidewalk is concrete.
Some sidewalk's concrete, and it gets to their driveway, it skips 10 feet. And
Yeah, well, there's specifications for the depressed curb between the sidewalk and the curb. There's no specifications for what takes place on the inside of the sidewalk on their property, which was an issue raised with the one across from McKinstry who paved their front yard, right? But there's nothing that says you can't pave your front yard.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. You good, Henry?
Yes.
Questions if you start in-house? You wanna keep looking, I'll go have Lloyd talk for a minute.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So what's that, just a quick question, help me understand, the water consumption, what's the range on a day or high? Which what, 1.2 or 1.5 million a day?
We average about 1.2, low would be about 1.1, high would be about 1.4, 1.5.
So it's pretty consistent range,
Oh, yeah, water's very consistent.
okay,
It would be something very unique to have, you know, sewer are reactive, you know, they're reacting to storm flows and things like that, so they're very volatile with the flows, but water is
consumption is very safe.
very, very steady. The chemistry doesn't change, the process doesn't change. You know, they change the filters, they move them up and down,
Yeah, thank you.
up and down a couple of gallons a minute, that's it.
All right, and if you're good, I'm gonna go to a question online.
I have one, reminder for, before the fall for a street light on Lower Union. 212 Union, no, 121 Union.
Okay. Is it out?
It has not been installed.
Is there a new pole?
The pole went up like February, March.
Was there an old pole with a light on it?
Yeah, it's still strapped to it.
Oh, the light is strapped to it.
Yeah, at the bottom.
Yeah, they don't, okay, they don't tell us.
No, I know.
He's done.
I'm just.
Just email it, so that way I can send it off
Perfect.
when we have Scotty around doing lights, we'll just send them to that one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, looks like we have one question online. Go ahead, Bill. Mr. Houston, are you online?
It's the best question I ever got from him. It's right outside. Big and warm.
Well, you should get him one of those shirts.
That's it.
All right,
Turn
if
it down.
there's no other questions, I guess we'll adjourn.
Great.
All right. Meeting adjourned. I don't think we need motions in
Yeah.
the committee.
That was